Hi guys, thanks for tuning in today. I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about how we're going to prepare for the AP exam this year and answer any questions that you might have regarding the FRQs that you will be completing on May 19th. I want to start off by saying that we are truly all in this together. I know that remote learning has been challenging, but I really do appreciate the hard work, the diligence, the effort that you have put in over the last couple of weeks and will continue to put in as we prepare for this AP exam. I'm with you every step of the way, and I just hope that you continue to remain diligent and strong for the next couple of weeks as we prepare together for this test. Some general information about our AP Psych exam. Our exam is going to be on May 19th at 2 p.m. It's going to be a 45-minute exam with 2 FRQs. The first FRQ is going to be a 25-minute FRQ, which is typically the time that you would have to write an FRQ in the older version of our exam. This is going to be a scenario-based FRQ, where really you're going to be asked to apply terms, concepts, and theories from our course to a real-life scenario. It is worth 55% of your overall score for the AP exam. You'll then write a second FRQ, which is going to be much shorter, 15 minutes, which is going to be a researched methods or research-based FRQ. This will be 45% of your overall grade for the AP exam. And really, this is going to test things like identifying variables within a research study, identifying experimental and control groups, understanding hypotheses, and really just trying to evaluate data that is being provided to you. Keep in mind that this exam administration will be open notes and open book. However, there will be a lockdown browser while you are taking the test. So even though you are going to be able to use some of the resources provided to you, your AP exam resource that we worked on last week, your textbook and other classroom notes that you've taken throughout the year, be mindful that you might not be able to access them on the computer you are using to take the actual AP exam. Hopefully none of us will have to make up the AP exam on May 19th, but if we have to, that will be on June 4th at 4 p.m. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there for those of you that this applies to. So just to break down a little bit more in terms of what College Board is looking at for each of the FRQs. FRQ 1 is the scenario-based FRQ, kind of traditional with a lot of the FRQs that we've conducted or completed throughout the year. Really, they're looking to assess your ability in explaining behavior and applying theories and perspective in real-life situations. Okay, so really all of the practice that we've done where we take a term, not only define it, but then apply it to a real-life scenario is really what FRQ1 will be all about. Our second FRQ will be more research-based. So they'll give you components of psychological research studies, and you'll be asked to interpret some of the data that is being provided to you and analyze some of the data that's being provided to you. That might look like identifying the independent and dependent variable, understanding what an operational definition is, or something as simple as calculating the mean of a data set. So we have 5 weeks to prepare for this AP exam, which is a long time. So really my game plan is to try to make this as effective, efficient, and hopefully not too boring for you as possible. We've spent the last week putting together an AP exam resource. Think of this as like a one-stop shop as you're taking the AP exam. Hopefully you can use this to access information that you may not know that might be asked on the FRQ. For the rest of the exam weeks, or preparation for our exam, we'll be kind of running a 3-day rotation. Anytime that our class lands on a Monday, we'll be practicing Mindfulness Monday, which is going to be an opportunity for us to kind of take a break from the AP exam review, do a little mindfulness meditation exercise, or maybe focus on some positive psychology activities like the one we completed the other week, the to-done list. The next day in the rotation will be for FRQ practice. That might be an opportunity for you to actually write an FRQ or type out an FRQ. That might be an opportunity for us to conference on Zoom and actually verbally discuss an FRQ. Or it might be an opportunity for you to work in small groups on FRQ practices. I don't want to burden us too much with the writing component of this exam. However, it is now going to be the main part of our exam, so we do have to practice it to some extent. And then a content-based activity, something to help us review past content, something that's a little bit fun, a little bit outside of just practicing writing over and over again. Maybe there will be some point values attached to this. Maybe there will be some incentives attached to this. But this will be a way for us to review much of the content that we've covered throughout the year. I want to remind you all too that my office hours are every morning from 9 to 10 a.m. before school starts. So if there are any questions that you have as you start to prepare for the AP exam, please don't hesitate to ask. So I want to spend the rest of today talking a little bit about some FRQ tips and tricks to help you come May 19th. So I want to just reiterate SOTAS, our acronym that we used from the beginning of the year to help us write FRQs. Spacing is super important even if we are typing our FRQs. What I'd like you to do is make sure that each term is broken up into its own paragraphs. This makes it easier for your reader to read. Order. I know some of you guys like to complete the FRQ out of order, maybe start with the terms that you know and go from there. But the actual final order of your FRQ should be the same as it's written within the question. So for example, if you have dopamine and then hippocampus and then let's say social learning written in your response, I would like each of those to be written as they were in the question themselves. Please make sure that you're providing not only an application for your terms within the FRQ, but also a definition. This is really important to make sure that you are demonstrating that you know the term or concept that's being asked of, and you can apply it to a real-life situation. And of course, make sure you utilize your synonyms, okay? Please don't write conformity is conformity. It's hard for us to understand or really understand what you're trying to say or determine whether or not you actually know what you're talking about if you write it in that way. So using synonyms or other words to describe the phenomena that we talk about in this class are really helpful ways to strengthen your response. Some additional tips and tricks. Try to read the FRQ at least twice before you dive right in. A lot of the times when we read it a second or even a third time, we catch some things that maybe we didn't the first go around. It's important for this FRQ that you're concise and technical over creative. Remember, there's no need to write an introductory paragraph or a follow-up conclusion. Really, you're getting right to the point with this FRQ by writing the definition and then applying it to the scenario that's being provided. Try to keep your responses per each term to 2 to 3 sentences each. For some of you that have been writing maybe 4, 5, 6 sentences per term, you might find you don't have enough time on this particular AP exam to do that, even if you're typing it. So please make sure that you're concise and getting right to the point with your definition and application. Make sure that you answer all parts of the question. Even if you're not sure on something, there's no harm in guessing. We have the luxury of being able to use our notes, our textbooks as we take this exam. So hopefully this is not something that we run into as an issue. However, if you are really struggling to determine what a term means, please just make sure that you guess. There's no harm in guessing, and you might surprise yourself and score the point for that particular term. Try to avoid answering the question with a question. I give you the example of denial means to deny something. This is kind of repetitive and redundant to the point that we brought up before about making sure you're using synonyms, but it's really important that you're clearly demonstrating that you know what the term means and you also can accurately apply it. And then developing your points thoughtfully, okay? Making sure that, again, this is concise, straight to the point, without a lot of fluff, and that you're very clear on what you're trying to portray. We have some other factors that must be considered as we prepare for this AP exam. Time constraints being the main one. We have 45 minutes total to complete 2 FRQs. There are a couple of issues that might come up within these time restraints. For example, searching for answers or information. I'm going to encourage you to make sure that the terms that you know without looking up, you answer first, and then go back to the terms that you don't know to look up. So often I think students take up too much time looking up information when they actually know deep down the information that they're being asked. So please try to avoid looking up too much information during your 45-minute FRQ times. Typing speed. Remember, you're not going to be able to copy and paste information into this particular exam, meaning that you're actually going to have to type it out. If you are a slow typer, you want to make sure that you're using your time in the most efficient way possible, remembering that 2 to 3 sentences per term is enough to score. And that goes into our issue of being concise. Please do not write lengthy paragraphs describing all the ins and outs of psychology. Some of you have a habit of tying in other psych terms that are not listed in the FRQ to the FRQ that's being asked, which is really good in terms of your academic ability, but not something that AP is testing for in this particular exam. So avoid that whenever possible. It's also important for you to consider the internet connectivity that you have within the location that you will be taking this test in. We're assuming that you'll be taking this test at home, so please make sure you are in a location of your house that has really good internet connectivity services, and make sure that the device that you're using is working, it's fully charged, you're connected to a power source. These seem like very minuscule issues, but remember, this is a time test that's standardized, meaning that everyone across the nation, across the world, is going to be taking this test at the same time. So if you have issues with connectivity and or your device, that might not necessarily be something that College Board considers in your scoring in the future. Avoid any outside distractions. Okay, so really while you're taking this test, anything that has nothing to do with the test should be put away. You shouldn't be reading for your English classes. You shouldn't be watching something on Netflix. You shouldn't be scrolling through social media. Again, these seem like fairly obvious things, but normally you'd be taking an AP exam in a classroom setting that all of these distractions would be removed or taken from you. Now that you're taking this at home, we have to be mindful of them. Even things like parents interrupting, or siblings interrupting, or pets. Try to make sure that you find a nice, quiet location and environment for you to take the test in the most effective and efficient way possible. And keep in mind that your classes that are normally scheduled at that time and day of the AP exam will continue to go on. You will be exempt from class that day. Usually they put you in as a field trip while you're taking the AP exam, but that does not mean that you will not have to make up work for the class that you have during that scheduled test time. So please make sure that you make up any classwork that you missed during your AP exam scheduled time. So that's pretty much it in terms of my spiel on what we're talking about with the AP exam and some of the helpful hints and tips for the FRQ writing. We will start our practice really beginning now, where I'm going to ask you to write an FRQ. Later in the week, we will be scoring this particular FRQ with a College Board rubric. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this today. Feel free to email me with any questions that you have. Thank you, and happy studying.